Welcome back to the Daily Nugget, Daily Property Insights. One topic, 20 minutes or less. Myself, Lotze, and today joined by Tom Rawson, a property advisor. And Tom, the question or statement to you today in the open market space at the moment. The example is a person is looking to sell their house and they've had their house appraised. One agent says their house is valued at $1 million or potential $1 million to sell. And another agent says $800,000. Would they trust, or where do they go with this when it's quite a drastic change between one appraisal to the other? And I can say from personal experience, I've had this happen to me as well, where it wasn't $10,000 or $20,000. There was a big six-figure sum difference between my two different appraisals.
It happens a lot, mate. And there's a number of things that come into play here, a number of factors. And so the key word in the question for me is trust. Who do you trust? I mean, it's a big asset you're potentially selling here. And so you've got to make sure you got the right person for the job. Trusting someone, it comes down to also, like, you're going to have them in your house, opening and closing your house, showing people through, talking about your property. They're going to be left unattended. So you need to trust them from that respect. Trusting them on value is another thing. So I would be looking for track record, for example. Have they sold other houses like this in this area, or is this their first sale in the area? And therefore, based on how many houses they've sold in the area, should they have a fair understanding of what this property is worth? Like if I just sold the house next to you, Lawrence, and it's exactly the same house as yours, and it's sold for 800, the one next door, and then I come in and I say, hey, look, I'm going to get you $1 million. And you go, well, based on what? You know, like my neighbour just sold. He sold for $800,000. How are you going to get me $1 million? Oh, I just will. It's like, well, hey, I was at home for every single open home next door. They had 100 groups through, whatever, 5 groups through. He had 3 offers. I talked to him over the fence, as he's mowing his lawn. He said he's really happy. He got 5 offers, and the best one, the one that he took, or he had an auction, and they all bid, and it was a good result. They got 800. What makes me think then that I should trust this agent who says he can get me $1 million? I mean, 2 Holden Commodores, one's at 20,000, one's at 50,000. Why? And they're exactly the same. Why would anyone pay 50,000 when the other one's 20? The only logical reason would be scarcity. You know, like if it was a very unique property and it's hard to price. But with the Holden Commodore example, Holden Commodores are the same. In the example I gave with you there, your house, same as the one next door, identical, sold for 800. There's not many reasons, logical reasons why it would sell for $1 million. So why do people do it? Why do people do it? Agents might not have the local area knowledge, or more common is they're trying to buy the listing. So they might have identified you, Lawrence, as someone that's after the best price. And so they go, well, look, Lawrence is after the best price. The way that I can secure his listing is just say I'm going to get him $1 million when really I know it's worth 800. Yes, I'll break his heart later when it sells for 800, but hey, I got the listing, stuff him. And so that's why people do it typically, is they'll buy the listing because they don't have enough business as it is, or don't have enough skills to identify the actual value in the area. Now, the $800,000 agent probably is the guy that sold the property next door, because you probably would have called him in because he's just sold one. Probably going to have some buyers because there was leftover bidders at the auction. Chances are there was an underbidder at $799,000 and then it sold for 800. So it just makes sense that the agent probably should get called in, and that's what often happens. They come in and go, hey, Lawrence, look, it's, I like what you've done here. It is quite similar to the property next door, which we just sold last weekend for 800. Based on that, you're kind of there or thereabouts, depending on emotion that gets thrown into it. And then you go, well, hey, I trust that. Like I did see the one next door. I've been through the house a number of times. It is quite similar. 800 seems fair. We do get greedy, as human beings. And we're like, oh, well, if this guy can get me $1 million, I'll give him a crack. What happens is he starts off down that path of trying to get you $1 million. Things change, whatever. The best buyers go and buy something else. And so in the auction scenario of your neighbour's property at 800,000, there was 800,000, there was 799,000. Those two were fighting it out. The next best buyer was 760. Well, he's still around in 2 weeks' time when your agent's gone from $1 million to going, hey, Lawrence, we're not going to get you $1 million. We might be getting you 800. Well, hey, the best buyer for your property is at 760 now. And you've actually cost yourself 40 grand by not trusting the first agent.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It's a real shame to see people get hooked on a price by the agent buying the listing, rather than going, well, it makes sense. The evidence is there. You can make an informed decision based on the evidence. Yeah, my property is worth 800,000. I know that. You know that. But I'll give this other guy a try who's going to lie to me. He's lying to you from the start. So it's a shame to see, and you've experienced it.
Yep. Yeah. I had a property where, so firstly, Tom, totally agree on that one, the sense of someone coming in, lack of experience, lack of understanding the neighborhood, buying the listing, 100%. That was sort of my experience. I went in and I spoke to a few people around one of my properties, and they said, X, Y, and Z, this is where it could be, this is where it can place. And I've already got a real estate agent that I trust, and fundamentally the only person I use in all of Auckland, and now it looks like all of Hamilton as well. They're willing to travel for me.
Nice.
And I went straight to them and said, hey, by the way, what's your thoughts on this consideration? They said to me, look here, I can tell you what they've said, but that's not what it is. This is where the place is, and here's all the validation, here's the proof, here's the numbers, here's all the details. And by all means, it was 200 grand difference between the person I trusted and the person that just said things, shiny things over here. Look, it's shiny money.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't take into consideration, but I'm in the game, so I'm well aware of this. It doesn't mean.
Did you sell the property?
No, it was just testing the market at that stage. Okay. What was going on? It's a property whether I want to develop or hold on or sell. Okay. I'm in two minds at the moment, so I was just seeing what as it is selling to future development or develop myself. So that was sort of the consideration. But the challenge is there's the mom and pops, there's the first timers that go through that don't have the experience to know that, hold on, glitz and glam on the one side isn't always glitz and glam, and it can't be that way. And now, unfortunately, in the marketplace, they get caught out. And like you said, the agent gets the listing, and then they go, oh, sorry, we can't get your $1 million. You're now going to have to drop it. And as you just showed the example, by the time you dropped, property might be, the public might see that there's something wrong with the property. Other buyers have disappeared, and now you're coming down to that 760 number, right? Where you could have gone straight in at 800 and grabbed that 799 straight away, and maybe have even got a couple of grand above and gone, hey, 802, 803, and it's yours, because they lost out that there's that emotional, I don't want to lose it again, and willing to pay a couple of grand more.
Yeah, I've had that happen. So the exact scenario there of you and your neighbour. And then they ring me up and go, hey, look, the neighbour's agents approached me and said, look, the underbidder, he's missed out. He's gutted, and on reflection, he probably would have paid the same money that one sold for, maybe a little bit more because he's gutted. Would you sell your place? And my mate rang me and said, look, he's come across, so effectively it's around the $800,000 mark. Mm-hmm. If I was to sell, I'd sell with you. Back when I was selling property. If I was to sell, I'd sell with you. But what do you think? And I said, mate, if he's got 800, they ran a campaign, they got to that level. You're happy at that level. He's got a buyer at that level.
Yep. Take it.
It's, follow the logic. Here's the evidence. You know what you should do. You're just ringing me to be polite. And I would have been doing an injustice to him saying, well, hey, look, wait, I'll have a crack at it. Try and find that buyer again. So I said, look, you're probably best to take it. Like, it works for you, and it's the best result for you. He wanted a quick sale without anybody going through his house, and he already had someone. So, follow the logical path, make decisions based on evidence to the mums and pops out there. It's like, I don't know if there's any other things we can compare it to. Like, I mean, the Dyson vacuum cleaner versus other vacuum cleaners. Like, I remember the vacuum cleaner salesman coming around back in the day, and the Kirby's. So if you've got mums and pops listening, the Kirby vacuum cleaners. So 500 grand it felt like back in the day when the vacuum cleaner salesman came door to door knocking. It was the best vacuum cleaner. It could paint your house, it could massage your back, and it could vacuum your floor, literally. And my parents bought one because the guy did the glitz and glamour, and I got the massage actually at the time in the demo. I was no better at cleaning the floor than any other vacuum cleaner, but it was the glitz and glamour that got my parents to buy that vacuum cleaner. So I would hate to see mom and pop go for the glitz and glamour only to get dropped later on. But unfortunately, it happens quite a lot.
Yeah, I does agree. And one final thing I want to mention there, Tom, is if you've got an agent that comes across, so anyone that's listening or watching a moment, and you've got an agent comes across and is trying to prove that, hey, I got buyers that'll be at the $1 million and it'll be at that point. Turn around to the agent and go, great. But this is where it gets challenging, because you can say, hey, show me your buyer, but then you've got to sign with them as the agency. Or you can have an open contract. Because sometimes I've had it where I've signed with an open contract, so I can have multiple agencies. But then I force them saying, you want to show me that there's such a big number, get someone on contract, and then come to me.
That's an option. So you could call their bluff effectively. That's what you're doing there. Hey, look, I've got a buyer that's more than that. Oh, cool. I'll sign a contract with you for 7 days. Let's do the AML. So we've got a few roadblocks to just go and bring them around. Let's do the AML. Here's my license, utility bill, etc. I'll give you a 7-day contract. Prove to me you've got a buyer at that level. Bring them around, and it's yours. If not, then I got to go for the other guy because I actually trust what he's told me. That's my 2 cents on that one, mate.
Oh, good. Thanks again, Tom, for coming over to the Daily Nugget. Daily Property Insights, one topic, 20 minutes or less. And as always, hope to see you.